Porte casone con un stemma a rete, una cuppulella che vi si era alzata, passa scampanianna pattuleta, con mano a papà te fa guardare. Tu fa l'americano, americano, americano.
Heritage cooking classes. We haven't had one in a while. I guess the last one we did was in 22. There's a version of that. There's a YouTube version of that on the Ligure Club website, as a matter of fact. So hopefully we'll have another one that'll be better than the last one. But here we are. So again, welcome to the class. My name is Tony Saraceno, for those of you that don't know me, and I've been doing various classes here for a few years. We missed during COVID, unfortunately, but I've done a few of these classes. I think this is my second or third time that we've done a SALUMI class. Anyway, here we are. On your table, there is a sheet here which gives you, and I'm going to just say what it is. It's a guide. Only a guide. There are 3 very important rules. Everything else is up to you. The real important rules are the percentage of salt per weight of meat. Number 2, the percentage of sugar, which is normally 50% of the amount of salt. Black pepper, 1%, and there's a 4th one which is always the big controversial number or controversial item, which is sodium nitrite. For those of you that don't like the idea of using sodium nitrite, there's a really simple way around it. The percentage is very, very low to begin with, 0.25% by weight of meat. The solution without using sodium nitrite is you use a little bit of liquid from celery. So celery juice provides the amount of nitrite to use as a preservative. The preservative does 2 things. It prevents bacteria, and I think more importantly, it keeps the color red or pink as opposed to going brown. If you look at the back of any packaged meat, which now I see in all the grocery stores, no nitrite, salami or prosciutto or whatever it is, and you look at the ingredients list, and there it is, celery juice. It works. So,
what is the name?
I'm sorry?
What is the name, do you think?
Sodium nitrite
sodium nitrite.
or sodium nitrate, either one. This one is cure number 2, which is sodium nitrite, right here. Oh, have a seat at one of these tables here.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah. No worries. Have a seat at any spot that's open.
Okay.
Michael, you too. There's wine and all kinds of fun stuff there. Those are the 3. Those are the 3 important items, or the 4 important items for curing meat, in my opinion. The rest is, if you look, the rest of the ingredients are really up to the taste you're trying to achieve. I use white wine to emulsify the herbs and salt and sugar, but for everything except bresaola, which is made with beef, I use red wine. I also, for bresaola, do the wet cure longer. So there's 2 parts of the curing process: the wet cure and then the dry cure. So what we're going to do today is we're going to start with 1 piece of meat that we're going to do the first step, which is the wet cure, and then the second piece of meat that we have, we'll prep it for the dry cure. So we'll take it out of the wet cure, rinse it off, etc., etc. We'll go into that. So Again, read this. Any questions, please ask away. Everything I do is by weight, and it's in grams. That's just my brain. It's a lot easier if you ever do. The metric system just is so easy to use. But I do everything by weight. So the first thing I do is weigh the meat and then go from there. So we're going to start with that. So we have, everything carries its own little ingredients sheet. And it goes from this to this, a little card. The card has the basics from this sheet, and I write it on, and that ties onto the meat as it's curing in the dry kit. Okay, so here we go. First step is we'll take the meat that's out, and I already made it easy for myself. I already listed what I'm going to put on here, so I'll read you the ingredients of what I'm going to use. So we start with the meat: salt, sugar, cure number 2, black pepper. Today I'm using rosemary, juniper berries, bay leaf, fennel seed, Italian seasoning, paprika, garlic, and white wine. And that's all listed on here, except I don't put the amounts from the black pepper down. I just do it by what looks good to me at that moment. So it varies on a regular basis. Okay, so here we go. We'll start now. Somewhere I had a pen, because I need my pen over here. I have several here. That one, by the way, while I'm getting ready, I'll mention it. Some have asked me in the past about doing hands-on classes. So I've kind of started thinking about the idea of doing a hands-on class. It would be limited to 6 people. If you're interested, please sign up on that sheet. They would be somewhere in Concord, and it would be one day. So day 1 would be the wet cure. The next meeting would be the taking it from the wet cure into the casing, and then the next one. Oh, there's empty seats right here at the table if you'd like, please. And then it'll be a third visit, which is to actually try the meat, because we'll hang it in my friend Adriano's wine cellar. These are all cured in his wine cellar with a temp of about 58 to 60 degrees, which, I'll say it again, I've said it many times, the state of California Health Department requires that you do all meat curing and all cheese making at 41 degrees Fahrenheit or less. If you have a couple of years, it's okay. It works. But it takes too long, in my opinion, number one. And number two, I think at that temperature, you don't get as much extraction of the flavors from the herbs and spices into the meat. So I prefer curing at the temperatures they cure in Europe, which is around 58 to 60 degrees. Hence, Adriano's wine cellar is the perfect temperature because it's air conditioned in the summer and naturally is in the 58 to 60 degree range in the winter. So, but here we go. So we start with the meat that's already here. We're going to use, because it's easy and quick, I tend to use as a teaching tool pork tenderloin. And here it is, the way it comes out of the bag. But I do clean it up because it has a little bit of silver skin or sinew that just does not taste very good just does not taste very good in my opinion. Hold on for this. So I just take it and I start trimming this off. These are easy, these little pieces of fat. I should hold this up so you get a better idea of what it looks like. These I have cured in as little as 18 days, when the temperature is right and the humidity. Humidity is as almost an important an issue with curing as temperature. And in fact, if you go to places like Emilia-Romagna, where they make, I think, the king of all cured meat is not prosciutto, but it's culatello. Culatello is made from one part of the leg of pork, and it is the absolute best flavor. And they claim the most famous location for culatello is a town called Zibello, Zibbellel, and Zibello literally sits next to the Po River, or one of its tributaries. I don't know if it's the actual Po or one of its tributaries, but that they keep the windows open in the winter to allow the fog to come in to the cellar, because that humidity slows down the curing process, or the drying part of the curing process, so that it actually doesn't dry too fast. My biggest issue curing meat in the summer, even though it's a temperature controlled cellar, is the humidity control is just not there. So it tends to get a little bit drier than I like.
For that reason, do you tend to cure more in the winter then?
Yes. So anyway, that's basically what we have. You can see where I trimmed off some of that silver skin. And now we get to weigh it. This functions as a couple of different things here today. At home it's a little bit easier where I've got everything right there handy with my sink. So we're going to weigh it. And this weighs 586 grams.
I have a question, Tony. You said that piece of meat is already cured for 17 days?
No, has not been touched.
Oh, it haven't touched.
This is raw right from the butcher shop,
Got it.
essentially. But it's 586 grams. So the first thing that I do is write down the weight of the meat. And then the percentage of salt depends on the percentage of fat in the meat. Tenderloin has virtually no fat. So because of that, I use 3% of the weight in salt. So I usually do the calculation. So 17.5 grams of salt. So it'll be probably 18. You go a little higher, it makes no difference. Half of that for sugar is going to be, let's say, 9 grams. Cure number 2 is 0.25%.
Is there a special salt to use? Like other salts you like more than others? Or?
I tend to use, don't pay attention to what it says. It is sea salt, but it's not this brand. I buy salt in bulk, and I fill these. They're very handy to use. So it's always sea salt non-iodized sea salt, no other additives of any type, pure sodium chloride.
Is it fine or flaky?
It's fine. It's not the flaky salt. I don't use flake salt. I don't use kosher salt, mainly because of the fact that it's flaky, it doesn't come out the same weight-wise to the way it goes into the meat. My personal opinion, many people argue with me about that, but this is how I've been doing it. And I've been doing it this way, by the way, since 1973. That was a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, I didn't have any gray hair when I first started. Isn't that amazing? Now all I have is gray. Yes.
A lot of cooks use Diamond Crystal kosher salt.
Yes.
Morton's kosher salt, you have to remember, is 10 times saltier than Diamond Crystals.
Yeah.
Because of the way they process it.
Right.
So you'll just, if you use Morton's, you'll ruin it.
That's right. So I don't use Morton's normally, and I usually use sea salt that I used to buy at a place that now has closed. I don't know if any of you know Harvest House in Concord.
Yeah, they closed that.
It's closed, completely shut down, gone.
Really?
Yeah,
Finito, huh?
finito. So they're gone. So anyway, so I use pure sea salt, fine with no additives. If I were to do a prosciutto, I would use coarse salt because you really pack the whole leg in coarse salt. If you use fine salt, it becomes too salty, so you have to be careful. But again, I don't use any flaky salts, and I don't use kosher salt because this is what I've been using. I learned how to do this in Italy, and the salt used to come probably from 50 miles from my house, from a natural salt facility. No, it was not a mine. It was a surface. They would bring in salt. They bring in salt water and then just do it like in dehydration ponds, just like they do. I think they still have some in not Hayward. It's
Redwood City.
Redwood. No, on this side. They don't have any more in Redwood
By
City.
Union City. Are they still
By
there?
Union City.
But it's got another name. That little spot, right? It's got another name, and I can't remember the name of it. I used to call on the guy that operated that facility. I used to ship salt for Leslie Salt. We used to ship salt for them to Australia, and Morton buys salt from them, but they buy a lot of different things. So anyway, that's the key is to use only salt, nothing else. I am going to try, because there's some friends who have a health issue with salt, so I'm going to try and start curing with potassium chloride, which is when you go to a supermarket and you see sodium-free salt, it's potassium chloride, which I use for myself. I have a small shaker of that. It actually, you have to be careful because it becomes saltier than sodium salt, but it doesn't have the impact on blood pressure that sodium salt does. So, but that's something I'm going to try. I keep saying to myself I'm going to try it, but I have yet to try it. I've had that 5-pound bag of salt for about 3 years, and I still haven't used it. But I will, I promise. So we need the cure number 2, 586 grams. We need 1.5 grams. This machine doesn't give me half grams, so we'll probably use 1 and then just add a little tiny more. And then we're going to go 586 times 1% is we'll do 6%, 6 grams of black pepper. Okay, so that's kind of our base. I'm sorry?
What exactly is pure number 2?
It's sodium nitrite. And what it does is it reduces the chance of, I'll be right back. Let me go wash this out. It reduces the chance of, we put the meat back in the bag, and I'll put it here so the camera can pick it up. And then we're going to start with our ingredients. So I use this plastic container, and we start adding, and I go by weight. Again, we have the list right here. Always have a list so you can use it properly. You don't want any issue. You don't want any issue with some people in Italy go by eye. I learned from a guy who did it by weight. And he was very specific, and he didn't care about anything other than the weight. So we'll do it by weight, just like he did. You know, when you learn one way, you got to do it that way. So now we did the salt. 9 grams of salt. And now we're going to add, 18 grams of salt. And we have 9 grams of sugar. And now we're going to use, and I just buy this kind of black pepper. I don't see the need for grinding it directly that day. 6 grams. So there we go. And now the fun one, which is the pink salt, or if you want, you can use, bear with me while I shift things just a little bit. This is the sodium nitrite, or pink salt. So the way, it's funny, it got the name pink salt because they wanted to make sure that you used sodium nitrite, not sodium nitrate. So they used to only make sodium nitrite pink. And then, for whatever reason, the USDA or the FDA, I think the FDA, told them to make both cure number 1 and cure number 2 pink. So now, you don't know by looking at it if it's sodium nitrite or sodium nitrate. The difference between the two is that sodium nitrite should be used for meat that you're not going to cook.
It's all pink salt, sodium nitrite. I mean, because there's Himalayan pink salt.
Oh no, that has nothing to do. That's just pink.
It's just
This
pink,
is
okay.
a different,
Sodium
completely
nitrite
different
is-
pink.
Okay, different pink.
And it's cure number 2. Cure number 1 is technically for anything that you're going to cook. And that's 1 gram. So you see, it doesn't take much.
How much does it take if you use celery juice?
I think I have it on the sheet. I can't remember whether it's a 1/4 teaspoon per gram.
You use the same amount of celery juice as you do the sodium nitrate.
Not, well, one is by weight,
Oh, yeah.
so I don't, I think I have to look it up. I think it's 1/4, I think it's 1/4 tablespoon of celery juice equals 1 gram of sodium nitrite.
Got it.
But look it up because I don't remember. I thought I had written it on here, and apparently I did not. My bad. My apologies for that. You can also Google it. Dr. Google tells you everything you want to know and many things you don't want to know. Okay, so here we have the mix, and now I'm going to start adding, for this one we're going to use rosemary. Rosemary, I kind of vacillate between using it like this, and that's where we're going to do it today. I just break it up and put about this much. So the amount, half of it, whatever was on here, you can see that, not a lot. Sometimes I put it in the grinder and grind it along with the juniper berries. Okay, so juniper berries, which I also bought for the last 15, 20 years. I bought them at Harvest House.
That's where I got mine, man. That's the only place you can find them.
And Dr. Amazon has them.
Does he know?
They have them at Oaktown Spice.
Oh, that's right.
Food
Yeah.
mill.
Have you shopped at the food mill? Spices.
Where is that?
On MacArthur? On MacArthur.
Oh, I live in Concord, so I
The
don't.
food mill?
Food mill. Yeah, it's been there for like 80 years.
So,
Love it. I love it.
so the juniper berries, which sometimes when I really want the, particularly with a big piece of meat, a thick piece of meat, and I really want the juniper flavor, I'll actually use juniper branches from my juniper tree in front of my house and put those in there. But in this case, I'm going to use about this size. Let's go with about 12 juniper berries. And I've actually, by the way, I've actually dried my own juniper when I had a bonsai tree that produced juniper berries. I screwed up. Sorry. I want to grind these. Unless you grind them.
Which one to bite into it?
Well, no, because we wash it off, so you don't actually get any of it. But you want to break it so that it has more surface area to meet with the actual meat that you're using. So you want to grind it, and so this is my. I'm going to focus on the word old coffee grinder, no longer used for coffee, because it'll taste like everything but coffee. And then I also like to put in, for one, I think I'll use, 2 small bay leaves. Yeah, that should be enough. And I've got some little pieces of rosemary in the bag. We'll just dump them in there. And we'll grind all this up. I don't know if I have do I have a spot to plug in my...
Where your lake is.
Huh, I'll never get that at. That's where my son-in-law is. This is Jeremy, my son-in-law.
Jeremy.
Otherwise known as my trusty assistant.
You saw him in half later?
Yeah. I'm gonna disappear pretty quick.
Thank you. And in order to really get a good grind, I do it on and off several times. And that usually does exactly what we need. That's good. Thank you. Here, once you just walk around with this so people can take a look, you can see the kind of grind that I'm looking for. By the way, the juniper berries that I did find from Dr. Amazon, I don't know why I call them Dr. Amazon. Dr. Google, Dr. Amazon, they're the people that want to control our lives. But
They're doing a good job.
yeah, they are. They're much bigger. They are much bigger than these. and they're also much softer, so they're not as dry, the ones that I found. And I found a nice little bag, but I think I'm going to try and look at Sprouts. Anybody shop at Sprouts in their spice section? Do they have juniper berries bulk?
I haven't looked for it.
Okay. I'll have to try that.
Check out Jethro. Jethro may have it.
Jethro?
Jethro, yeah.
You know the problem with Jethro?
You need the card.
No, I have the card. I shop there a lot. I have to buy 5 pounds.
Well, you know, they have the smaller ones.
Yeah. Juniper berries? Never seen them. But I'll look.
Tommy, when you use juniper off your tree, you use just foliage?
Exactly.
Green foliage?
Yes.
Or did you dry it first?
Yeah, no, green foliage, fresh green foliage, and I'll put it in the grinder. When the leaves gets this grinder really a mess. But it's okay. Again, I don't use it for coffee anymore. I have another one for coffee. So we got that in there. So now, my other favorite, for those of you that don't know, I'm from Calabria. And we use a lot of fennel. Yeah, me too. In fact, I've had arguments with people not from Calabria that porchetta should not have fennel. My porchetta has lots of fennel.
Mine does.
There you go. So, you can use 2 different fennels. When my tree, which my gardener had an assistant that came over 2 weeks ago and cut my fennel to the ground. That was my fennel bush that had been growing there for 20 years.
Oh, no.
Cut it to the ground.
We're not talking.
The gardener and I are talking, but the gardener's assistant now knows not to get near me. So, I really enjoy using the seeds right from that plant. I would go and look. I would let some of it just go to seed, and some of it I would take the pollen off. Have any of you ever used fennel pollen? The yellow? Oh. Let me tell you, the perfume of that is just incredible. And I would go, literally, turn them upside down into a bag, trim them, and I used to do this on the side of the road. 37, I would stop when I was coming back from some adventure on 37 with a bag and just snip them, and then use the yellow pollen that would, as the flowers would dry, would all fall to the bottom of the bag, and you can use that yellow flavor, just outstanding. Or I would let it go to seed, but you have to be very careful because it goes from flower to seed and opens up in no time. You have to be careful. Again, the same thing, you have to snip it. And it's the closest that comes to this particular fennel. And I'm going to ask Jeremy to kind of walk around with this too. So you can see there's a big difference between what you buy in the spice rack as fennel to this. I buy this in Mexican grocery stores, and it's called anise in grano. And this is what in Italy they call finocchietto, or little fennel. And it's from the wild fennel plants that are growing, the one that was growing in my backyard. Which, by the way, this morning, he saved, because this morning I saw a sprout this tall, beautiful green, so it's going to come back. So I will not look for that poor kid. I will not look for that poor kid.
What was the name of the band of the Mexican version? What was it?
Anise?
Anise in grano. So anise in grano. So for this, I use about for this amount, I probably use, I don't know, maybe a little bit more than a quarter teaspoon, because I haven't ground it up. I also use fennel powder. Again, if you want a big kick of fennel, use fennel powder, which I buy at an Indian market around the corner from my house. And then, because I just like to add a little extra flavor, I like to use a little just plain Italian seasoning. And if you look on there, it's got marjoram, thyme, rosemary, savory, sage, oregano, and basil. Not a lot of anything, but it just gives, I think it adds a little bit of micro, and again, I'm using maybe a half a teaspoon, not even that.
Hey, Tony,
Yes,
this smells more like what we call anise seed versus fennel seed. Is that?
yes,
Yeah, so it's
yes.
really anise, not fennel.
Right, but fennel is anise,
Okay.
because the actual name for what you buy as a fennel seed is anise, anice in Italian. But it's cultivated anice versus wild finocchietto. So that's why I tend to use this one. One of the reasons the grains are smaller, it doesn't quite all get stuck in your teeth. Okay, let's kind of be very honest. The other one, they kind of get stuck in your teeth. A little chewy. Do you want to really bite on a big piece of fennel seed? Not really. Not today. And then we're going to use a little bit of paprika. And I buy, obviously, in large quantities. I don't want to use a lot. And what I do with this,
Is it smoked?
this is not smoked.
Is that Hungarian?
This is probably,
It's fancy.
it's paprika. Oh, by the way, just so you, I know everyone has to know, it's gluten-free. Really? You have to actually write gluten-free on paprika?
No, it's just you paid more for it. It says gluten free.
People don't know that most spices are gluten-free.
Yeah.
It's
Like corn is
like it's gonna
gluten-free.
be better if it's gluten-free.
Corn tortillas are gluten-free. Why do you need to put gluten-free on top, in big letters on top of corn tortillas? I don't know.
People don't know.
Yeah. Now, I use this actually twice in the process. Once just a little bit to get a little flavor, but then I like to roll it, and you'll see when we do it on the one that's already gone through the wet. I actually will roll it before I put it in the casing. I'll roll it in paprika, and then sometimes I'll use chili powder as well, which has a little more than just powder. It's got a little salt. It's got a couple of other things. I didn't bring one with me, so I can't tell you what's got in it because I can't remember it off the top of my head. But it's not much. Then I use dehydrated garlic powder. So this is garlic powder, and it's maybe an eighth of a teaspoon, which is more than enough. Couple of things interesting. Garlic used in curing meat is actually an antibacterial. Who would have known? But it's an antibacterial. Maybe that's why I don't get very much bacterial problems, because I eat a little salt. So, all this goes in the bag.
So you don't cut the meat at all?
I'm sorry?
You don't cut the meat? You
No,
don't
no,
chop
no.
it?
This is solid muscle. So what I do now is I just kind of massage it. You want to roll it around, massage it really well. Then we add a little bit of white wine, and sometimes we add some for the cook and some for the meat. Today it's only for the meat. Not much. You just want to emulsify the dry ingredients to get them to permeate the meat better. And then this will sit in the refrigerator for about 5 to 7 days. And every other day I massage it, just literally just like this. Just roll it, turn it around, go the other way, just so it's getting as much contact with the spices and the salt and sugar as you can get. Okay? And there we have it. So, I lost my baggie. There it is. So again, this travels with the meat during the wet cure. Otherwise, you end up, it's like with for those of you that make wine, there's a few in this room that have made wine. What is this wine? I lost the label. What is it? Or I found a bottle. Many of you know I've made wine for many years. I found a bottle sitting under a cupboard, in a wine thing under the cupboard. And it said, some person's name. And it's interesting, it's a woman's name, which is unusual because I don't know any women winemakers. And it was her name, something wine. No location, no varietal, nothing. I said, okay, no year. I still don't know what it was. We drank it. It didn't taste very good. So it's probably good not to know. And I still don't know. I kept the bottle because I'm trying to figure out who is this person. And so now it goes in the fridge for 5 to 7 days. The size of this, 5 days, is more than enough because you're only dealing with maybe 1.5 inch diameter meat. So it doesn't take much for it to soak in. For bresaola, which is a little bigger piece of meat, and I was corrected in Italy by one of my cousins that you must use the eye of round to make bresaola. If you don't use that, you can't call it bresaola. I sent them a picture. I haven't heard back from them today yet. I sent them a picture of the eye of round that we sliced up today. I said, okay, is this now bresaola for you? I usually use, or I have for many years, use tri-tip. Completely free of any external fat, and just tie that into a round and use tri-tip to make bresaola. And I think it tastes pretty good, and it's got more flavor because it's got fat. The intramuscular fat, I think, really helps. So now we're going to take the famous piece of paper, and if you look in this book, that's my, I watch a lot of detective shows. They call it some weird crime book name. That's my meat book. Every piece of meat that I've cured for the last, I think, 4 years is in there. There's a sheet with this in it by date. And that's going to go in that book. We're going to put, before I do that, we're going to put it all on the tag. That's right here. Okay, so I'm going to move out for a minute or two. You can tell when the meat has absorbed salt and sugar because it becomes thicker. It feels thicker. It just gets denser. Because it loses some of its own water because of the salt. Salt and sugar both tend to dehydrate meat, or anything else for that matter. So I'm going to go wash this off and bring it back. So I'll be gone for 5 minutes at the max. .410, but it's all by feel. You have to notice how it feels. If it starts to become too hard, you have a problem. So you have to solve the problem before it becomes bigger than it should be. I'm just shortening this.
So Tony, for those of us who don't have 52 years of experience doing it, what is the feel that we're looking for? Should it be harder than it was before, softer?
The feeling should be like when you buy an artisanal piece of salami in the casing from the grocery store. It's hard, but not. It's got some. It's firm, sliceable and firm. That's the key. And so the tag goes on. And there we have it. It's ready to go.
You get to keep that.
And that goes now to Adriano's.
Two things will happen. Tonight I will probably take it at room temperature, get some of the bacteria in water, and coat it all the way around. Let it sit in that for a couple of hours. At room temperature, again, just like malolactic fermentation does not happen when the temperatures are below 65. Am I right? Winemakers? Where are the winemakers? Yeah. 65, I think, right? Malolactic. Anyway, same thing with this bacteria. They're very closely related bacteria. I think I have the name for it on here.
And it can penetrate the.
Oh yes. Oh yes. Bacteria penetrate. It'll penetrate your brain. No, it's really fun. I mean, it goes right through the skin, and this is essentially it's skin made with Jello, but it's skin. So, and then tomorrow I'll hang it. Yes.
So you talked about the government suggested 41 degrees. You like 58 degrees. What if your ambient temperature is something higher, like
No.
65?
No.
Can't do that.
No. I would not recommend anything over 60 degrees. I would not recommend anything. That's why when I'm at home, when I'm curing in my house, I only do it November through the middle of March. You have temperature that can hit 75, 80 degrees. That meat will start to go rancid.
Yeah.
It'll be the fat in the meat that'll go rancid first, and you'll taste it.
It's the difference between curing and rotting.
Correct. Curing, not rotting. All right. Any other questions?
Yeah, Tony, can you do that in a wine cooler?
Two things with a wine cooler. You have to have a lot of airflow.
Right.
In Adriano's wine cellar, I actually have a fan in there on a timer, and it comes on every 4 hours for about an hour. Every 3 hours for about an hour. I don't remember when I said it, but yeah, you want airflow. Again, what I was saying, my garage has a window that's open this much. In the winter, that allows enough airflow inside the garage to be able to you want humidity. Once in a while, when I go to Adriano's and it's not a real dry day, I'll leave the door open to the wine cellar while I do all the work just to bring some humidity in. I'll go back to Culatello in Emilia-Romagna. They open the windows to allow the fog from the river to come inside the curing room. And they claim to do the same in San Daniele, where they make prosciutto in northeastern Italy and other places. Humidity is very important.
Yeah, they had it on racks when we went to the prosciutto place and they rolled it out in the winter.
They have, yeah, right.
Or opened up all the windows.
Yeah, they open all the windows. They open the windows, yeah. And if, you know, they've been, I'm trying to remember the name of the guy. There's a guy that has been on several TV shows all over the world.
Tucci.
Stanley Tucci.
Tucci?
No, that's not
actor.
Tucci. This is the actual guy that makes the culatello. He's the king of culatello.
Oh.
In what's the name of the town?
Zibello.
Zibello, grazie. Thank you so much. I said it before and I couldn't remember it this time. It's that gray hair. It's affecting the brain cells. So in Zibello, this cantina or cellar, it looks like they've been curing meat in there for about 1,000 years. It's coated with stuff on the walls that you don't want to scrape off. Just like, again, I go back to winemaking. Once you inject what's the name of the malolactic bacteria? I can't remember the name of it. It's got a specific name for winemaking. Once that gets into the wood of the structure that you have your barrels in,
Yeah.
you don't have to add it again because it's in the wood. Some bad things get in the wood too, so you gotta be careful.
What do you do for the dripping?
What dripping?
Do you ever have a problem with the fat coming out of the?
At 60 degrees, there's no fat coming out.
So you don't get any drips?
There may be, for the first week or so, there may be a little bit of liquid coming out.
Yeah.
But we have that solution, or that resolved easily because these all sit over a large sink.
Oh, okay.
You mentioned Zibello. Where is Zibello?
Zibello is in Emilia Romagna.
Tuo fa l'americano, americano, americano, ma si nati in Italia, sienta a me non c'è sta niente a fa, ok napolitan, tuo fa l'americano, wish che so del rock and roll, wish che so del rock and roll, wish che so del rock and roll, tuo fa l'americano, wish che so del rock and roll, wish che so del rock and roll, wish che so del rock and roll.